So it sounds like we kind of want to do the advanced personal learning then, or do you guys want to try for the something else?
I, I'm fine with also trying something else. I was just making an argument for if that was an avenue that we wanted to try, that might be a way that we could go about prototyping that. I guess Drake or Cheryl, were there any of the other ones that we had discussed or ones we had not yet discussed that you guys would be interested in either delving into more or feel like you're leaning into one way or the other?
I think the infrastructure one might be kind of too broad, I think.
Yeah.
I think so as well, but I mean, with it being as broad as it is, and also stop me if you ever want to. I'm mostly going to just argue points, I guess, for and against these things. But for infrastructure, I think with it being so broad, I think one of the things that does as well is it gives us a lot of wiggle room, and we could find something. Like, we're not trying to repair all of infrastructure.
Yeah, I mean, we could just focus on
some part of infrastructure.
We could just focus on one certain thing.
Right, like bridges, and not even that we need to do that one specifically, but we could just focus specifically on bridges are collapsing all over the place, and collapsing bridges are what I would consider a problem, especially if you're on or around bridges while they collapse. So potentially it might be worth looking at either different kinds of building practices for the bridges, different materials to be used for bridges, etc. There is a wide breadth of different things within that category that I think that we could try and tackle.
I mean, it would be kind of.
I don't know if I'm necessarily.
I think it would be kind of neat to redesign like stoplights. I think stoplights are
sure
ugly, I guess.
Or how we deal with traffic in general, I think might be like stoplights for sure.
Besides just roundabouts.
But yeah, besides just roundabouts
let's put a
traffic lights, I feel like they're.
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, like if you live around Lafayette or West Lafayette or spend much time driving in there,
I avoid Lafayette at all.
For a school that produces. Yeah, for a school that produces so many civil engineers, you'd think that the layout of our transit system and our roads and everything in this area would be much better than it is. So I have thoughts on that for sure.
Yeah, I try to avoid Lafayette whenever I can.
For the best.
Because I live just north of Frankfort. I live out in the country, so.
Okay.
It's it's not like somebody's here. So I live out in the country, so I hear things. But,
sure.
Oh yeah, it was Amazon. Amazon was
nice.
In southern Indiana, them roundabouts work really well. There's nobody on the roads.
Yeah.
There's not nearly many people.
There's a place for them.
The the roundabouts? They work, but people are not smart enough to work them. I should say.
You live in the wrong area.
I do, yes.
Yeah.
Some people know how. Some people know how to work them, and some people just don't.
And I think that I guess I don't want to necessarily delve into that too terribly much, but I think there are a couple of factors that can go into that. One being roundabouts being what I would consider to be a relatively new concept in American traffic design, road design and stuff. And additionally, with it being a relatively newer concept that's been integrated over here, there are a lot of older drivers as well that are not nearly as keen on learning or have difficulties, or they are just they're used to stoplights and intersections.
Yeah.
So we got to take the learning out of it and just make it easy.
or we could focus specifically on the learning side of it. And I guess that does kind of incidentally go back to the personalized learning thing a little bit. But I don't necessarily like, do we have to like hard pick one of these categories? Is that what
Yeah.
today's assignment is?
I think so.
That's okay. I
So, I mean, we
follow,
could-
but
we
I
could
also
do-
don't like the
I just lost.
I was
it.
gonna say I think that I would hate to be just completely forced into one corner or the other, but I guess that is kind of what we're supposed to be doing here.
I mean, I think we have to pick something, but we can probably make it our own.
Sure.
But I mean, I think if we did infrastructure, we could get rid of stoplights and put like car readers in the bottom of like in the ground. And when
Sure.
when the traffic gets backed up so far, then it creates posts that come out and stop cars. Even if cars are over them, it stops them. And then it lets the traffic go.
Launching vehicles in here.
Yeah, it just
I guess my next
Just
question
skewers
is, how
cars.
seriously do we have to take this project? Because like,
probably
could we
pretty
just,
serious, I
like,
think.
all right, well, that's fine, but less fun. Because
It's less fun,
coming up
but-
with like a way to deal with traffic using like trebuchets, I think would be fantastic. Like, we should just be eating cars places, and then we won't have to worry about so much traffic.
I mean, the goal of today is to make it home with the car in one piece. That's the goal. That's
Yeah,
the goal of
exactly.
today. I mean, I don't know how serious we have to be. We just have to make a prototype. That's it.
Because I could make a prototype trebuchet.
Dude, I know
I don't know
people.
if I could make one big enough to. I could make one to scale to shoot some like toy cars and stuff. And if we find things that are appropriately scaled, then I can make something that's appropriately scaled for.
Like I said, I know people. He would be more than happy to make us a trebuchet.
Yeah.
But
Good.
yeah. Okay, well, it sounds like we want to build something big. So I would think probably infrastructure would probably be something good. The carbon thing, I mean, let's just plant trees on top of skyscrapers and then just call it a day.
So I like that a lot, honestly. I'm a big proponent of like arcology concepts. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but they're basically just giant self-sustaining buildings and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like they've done a lot for like planting gardens and stuff on top of
Yeah.
buildings.
I think that could also be potentially fun. I don't know if that's necessarily more of an urban infrastructure angle or carbon capture, because carbon capture would definitely need to be a component of something like that. But I think that is a pretty cool and fun idea, buildings and plants and stuff.
Well, I mean, I
Okay.
think it sounds like urban infrastructure will probably be the easiest way to build a prototype.
I would probably think so as well, at least in like the constraints that we've been worried about. I'm concerned about.
I guess I
And-
would say we're
and-
down to infrastructure and the carbon thing.
Drake, thoughts? Additions? Contradictions?
I'm liking the infrastructure thing because I feel like we could scale that down, like
Yeah.
to make a prototype. We can
Mhm.
scale down to make a decent prototype of that. So I like that part. The carbon part of that, I think you could do something about like to reduce like, I mean, I know like when I was a kid, I went over to New York and stuff. And
Mhm.
I remember like walking through the streets and like it was just sad because I didn't see one tree at all. Like,
Sure.
yeah, it was just, I don't know. I've always, Southern Indiana, you know, we have trees everywhere, cornfields, whatever, plants everywhere you look. But in New York, was absolutely nothing. but like even to have like what she said, like some sort of either like if you're able to have like some sort of plant like crops grow on top of the on top of the buildings, or just normal like plants that are able to take more carbon out of the air type deal,
Mhm.
like whatever.
Yeah, we would almost
Have
have to
those-
make a prototype plant. It would be like a tree with a charcoal trunk or something.
like, there's plants that do take out more carbon than others
Mhm.
that you could probably have those on top of buildings and stuff like that. To how much that's going to reduce, you would have to do the math of it and like get a close estimate to see if that would actually put a dent in the problem.
Yeah,
But
it would have to be like every single building.
Sure.
that's where the infrastructure thing comes in.
So I guess it seems like that's one that we've come back to a number of times.
Infrastructure it is, got it.
Yeah, I kind of Drake thoughts. Like I'm kind of feeling it.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay,
See, I think
infrastructure.
it'll be easy to scale down.
I think so
Yeah,
as well.
we could scale it down.
I do like the idea of the either dealing with traffic or introducing greenery and flora and fauna back into cities, or some sort of design process. I think that, are you guys familiar with arcology projects at all?
Not really.
Yeah, like I don't know how much you look into like let's start with are you big fans of science fiction?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Drake, you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So arcology projects crop up in a number of different kinds of utopian and dystopian, oftentimes science fiction. So if you played like Cyberpunk, for example, arcology projects are like massive buildings that you could basically put at least a town's worth of people inside, if not sometimes, depending on the scale of it, a city's worth of people inside. And they're meant to be self-sufficient infrastructures, right? It should be able to maintain its own water, produce its own food. It should have its own places for commerce, luxury, entertainment. It should have power, things along those lines. Now, I think that's awfully ambitious, but I think that you could do smaller scaled down arcology projects, buildings that are designed with some kind of purpose, like refining carbon, or even if the purpose is just to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining, which I think is probably something that we could do, because I think that basically you're making a model building, and then trying to design it to be as efficient with its resources as possible. But I don't necessarily want to focus us just down on that rabbit hole, because I know that we had also talked a little bit about potentially coming at infrastructure from the angle of like traffic, or some other various means. So are there any avenues that you guys would be particularly interested in leaning into in regards to infrastructure?
The going back to what you were just talking about, isn't that the plan that like Saudi Arabia or something like that just came up with?
Yeah,
like,
with like
the wall.
the wall. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's an incredible design thing. It's incredibly ambitious. We'll see if it actually plays out. But yes, that is essentially what they are doing, and
Yeah.
what you can do with it is essentially, without compromising too much on both personal space needed for like individuals and family units and such,
Yeah.
but condensed to an area so that there is more usable just land mass, either for nature reserves or for natural resources, anything along those lines.
They have them in like
But yes,
Judge
that's it. That's
Dredd,
exactly right.
everything like
Sorry?
that. Uh,
So I guess back to my question, were there any other avenues? We were talking, I had brought up arcologies, we had brought up traffic as well. Are there any other avenues that you all might be interested in pursuing further?
Yeah, the infrastructure on that grand challenges thing, it says something about, it's the problem is particularly acute in urban areas, so it's
Mhm.
focusing on urban areas, but it's saying it's just aging and funding has been insufficient. So
Yes.
it says
I could think of plenty of political ways that we could solve this problem, but I think that's not necessarily what we're aiming for here.
I mean, like I know, like New York, their subway system is absolutely atrocious. It's on the brink of failure for a
It was
while,
built by-
and but in order to actually fix it, millions of people won't be able to get to their jobs or anything like that. So it's like it's kind of one of the things where they're going to have to
you have to
one day
inconvenience
it's
people
most
for a
likely going
while.
to collapse. Like they
Yeah.
would have to shut it down, the city of New York down for a long time just to be able to fix it. And there's just no way they can, with the amount of people that are using the subway, there's no way they can shut it down for the amount of time needed. So it's like
I guess
that's
my
the thing.
yeah, this says
So-
the only way to dramatic progress may be possible only by developing entirely new construction methods. So the point of it's not to fix and make something better from what we have, it's to do something different. So even if
yeah,
they
it's
shut,
to restore or improve, or restore and improve. Yeah.
so even if we could shut New York down for a while and replace the subway system, because what would we replace it with though? It's already
Well,
electric, right?
No,
I mean,
like
yes, but it's old, and there have been like massive improvements and like train and transit technology since that was put in, and arguably things that were built in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s, especially in larger cities, I would generally not ascribe to having been built by people who were not the lowest bidder, and oftentimes had very succinct connections with a lot of people in the government who would just hand out contracts to friends or campaign donors. So there
was
are a lot
built-
of angles that I think you could come at that.
it was built about 100 years ago. So I mean, and it's multi-layered throughout it. So it's like the amount of wear and tear on a rail system is insane. And for the fact that you have a rail system like that's multi-level underneath the city of New York, and you're unable to shut it down because of the amount of people that are there using it, there's going to be a lot of wear and tear on it, and it's probably a lot worse than even what we actually know.
Mhm.
Because I know, like, I mean, I'm at Toyota maintenance and stuff. Like, I mean, my plant's like it's 16, 18 years old, and there's steel that we've had to replace and everything like that from just 16 years of wear and tear of building Siennas and Highlanders. So I mean,
Mhm.
I couldn't imagine a whole subway system that's 100 years
being
old.
run
Wear
that's
and
being
tear.
run 24 hours a day.
Yeah, it'd be atrocious how
Yeah.
bad that would be down there. And then
So
also you're underground and everything like that. So there's moisture, and steel and moisture don't mix well together. It's
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I like potentially coming at it from coming at infrastructure from a transit angle as well, which I think I would say is, while it's related to traffic, I would say that it is probably fundamentally different, because whenever I think of traffic, generally speaking, I'm thinking of individual or commuters, and transit is mass transportation. I really do like potentially coming at it from a transit angle as well.
I mean, the rail system, like the subway system, is a good system. It just needs to have the ability to shut down and not completely screw over the city, because countless number of people wouldn't be able to get to their jobs, and you can't just shut down an entire city to do a few months worth of work. Or most likely, like we have Highway 69, and like they'll will be one way for they'll have one lane open for a year. I mean, until they get that done. So who knows how long it would take them to get that all done. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
just
know.
I just read part of this that kind of was interesting on that Grand Challenges thing. It says that much of the rest of urban infrastructure has been erected without as much concern for its impact on a city's appearance. Awareness of the aesthetics of engineering has begun to influence infrastructure design more generally. Integrating infrastructure needs with the desire for urban green spaces. So designing something that can do transport but also help. Can I help you? I think so. Helping the urban space at the same time, help make it green. So I mean, we could do.
Could we do parks on a train?
Parks on a train.
Yeah.
Now I was like, most stuff's going green. It's going electrical, powered by either solar or wind. So we make sailboats for land.
All right. Now we're talking.
With be a little difficult with the skyscrapers all around you.
Well, we're not.
Yeah.
We're doing a small area. We're doing something on the coast. We're going to start. We're going to start on the coast.
San
where they have
Diego.
plenty of wind.
I like this.
But I mean, we could design something that's small and efficient, maybe not for like the entire community, but maybe more for a less populated area to begin with, but make it to where it's less impactful on nature, but still able to get the job done.
I mean, if you think about it, like going back to that traffic thing, like an idling car produces the most emissions. Like whenever you're just sitting at idle and you're sitting there and you're stuck in traffic type deal. If you were to and it's always at those stoplights. So we have, like in my area, we have the Lloyd that runs east to west from Evansville and the Newburgh and everything like that where I live. And traffic will get backed up all the time there. And there might be a, I don't know, half mile of line on a half mile, 3/4 of a line at the stoplight. But rather than having stoplights like on those highways and everything like that are not they're highways, but they're not like like interstates or anything like that. But
Sure.
implementing overpasses even for those, like, because that would reduce like emissions and everything like that. It also speeds up commuting in a city and everything like that. So I don't. That's technically a. It doesn't seem like a green
No,
way,
but
but in a way it is, because rather than having however many cars just sitting there idling and burning more fuel just sitting there, you're able to get to the destination quicker and you're getting away from the emissions from an idling vehicle.
I mean, we could even
Sure.
take that because I know electric vehicles are going to be, they're pushing for electric vehicles to be the only thing produced here soon. And I mean, that would even work for like battery life on electric vehicle to make
Yeah.
something like that. So
Um, so I really like this brainstorming. My question here would be one, how far involved, I should probably like pull up today's homework. How far down the rabbit hole do we need to fall today? Because I think that we've decided more or less we're interested in doing infrastructure, right? Restoring and improving upon infrastructure one way or the other.
yeah,
Regardless of how we
today
go
it looks
about
like we just need to do the fishbone diagram and
Okay.
get our stakeholders and plan on what we're going to look for and who we're going to talk to. And
Okay.
The this might be a dumb question, but like I may have glanced over it or something, but what is this? What is the stakeholder?
stakeholder is who's involved. It could be anybody. From a stakeholder is somebody that may want to use whatever we build, or somebody's going to fund it, or somebody who's going to help build it.
Okay. So in the example that like in that example, they had like whatever the fire department, that's technically the they're potential stakeholders. We don't actually have to have a stakeholder.
No, like
specific.
we're not trying to look to somebody to fund it.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was just
Hey,
It's all just make believe, but we just have to end up building
Sure.
something.
well, I
That's
didn't know
fine.
since we had to do like interviews, actual interviews and stuff like that.
I don't know. I haven't looked that far ahead.
let's see.
But
Some of
we can work on
productivity
the
to
we
get
can work
to.
on the fishbone right now. So I
Okay.
have the fishbone pulled up, and I have infrastructure just as the basic problem.
Okay.
So we can do contributing. We need 5 contributing factors to infrastructure, and then problems for all those.
Okay. So contributing factors for infrastructure.
Age. I mean, that's not going to be part of our thing. We're doing something new. So that was
Sure. So would those be along the lines of how we were breaking it down previously, such as using like buildings or living space design, traffic, traffic layout and improvement, transit, mass transit, or should we be looking more specifically at problems that these things that are infrastructure might be experiencing?
I thought like we have to like narrow it down to like what piece of infrastructure. So are we dealing with like I don't know, like
Are we going to do the transit part of infrastructure? Are we going to do the building part of it, like the bridges, or are we going to do traffic layout?
feel like you have to be a little like we have to be a little more specific on that main problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up the Fishbone thing here. Here we go. All right, so high staff turnover management, corporate culture, environmental, working environment, training and development, pay. Okay, so how would we like to break this down? Are we wanting to try and break it down by like subgenres that we think of whenever we are thinking of infrastructure? Or do we want to break it down from infrastructure being our basis and trying to decide what are different problems that aging, or what are different things that contribute to degenerating infrastructure?
I mean, it just says, if you don't have a diagram, please provide the problem space your group has identified. So I think we are
Okay.
supposed to actually like figure out what we're going to try to solve.
Okay, well, that's fine then, actually, because I'd much rather be discussing that anyway. So then I guess what kind of infrastructure, what are we interested in tackling here? I think that mass transit is a pretty good angle. I think there are a lot of different ways that we could still go about that angle as well, be it restoring or modifying subways or tram systems, or potentially coming up with interesting new ideas like giant sailboats or land sails. I feel like I didn't get enough play for the idea of like parks on wheels, but I'm gonna bring that one back in here because I kind of like the concept of it now. Just
I mean, they already have like bars on wheels, so what's the difference?
yeah, but like imagine that, except it's a giant train or like just a regular sized train on a like elongated park space that's sitting on top of the train, just moves around.
Well,
We
I
could
mean,
set up, we could put it on McKinnon wheels. We don't even necessarily need it to be on tracks. And then we could have a giant moving park that can go visit people in neighborhoods rather than.
I don't know. I feel like it'd be hard to have a park whenever, like, I know when it, at least in my experience on trains, haven't always been the smoothest of rides. Like, you have to,
Sure.
like, you're holding on to something or whatever. So it's like not in my thinking a parky condition just because of you're always while it's moving you got to hold on to something or you're going to be like wobbling around everywhere type deal.
No, I think that makes perfect sense.
I mean, I guess we could ask, what do we all think is the biggest problem with the infrastructure?
Age and where
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the
And
inability to fix said problems.
I don't think it's necessarily the inability to. It's from my perspective, I would say that it's the willful choosing of one aspect of society over another. Like, for example, we could fix all of the subways in New York. We could do that. There is money available in the United States as a whole, and also in New York State, and also in New York City.
Yeah.
There is funding there. That funding can be allocated to those places. We can shut down specific public properties to repair them. We can do all of this stuff, but we choose not to because of the capitalistic impact that would have
An inconvenience.
it would be an inconvenience. It would be a loss in short-term profits. And as such, we choose to just delay these projects and instead let them age and deteriorate.
Yeah. I feel like we'd have to, if we were able to figure out like some sort of prototype system to say, like, so it's multi-layered, so the subway itself, so if you worked on a layer at a time, but we were able to adapt some sort of transportation system that could get close to the amount of movement of people, but we were able to adjust it for whatever that layer was responsible for taking people to, if that makes any sense.
I got it.
Mhm.
Escalators everywhere.
Just
Flat
everywhere you go.
tracks.
There you go. Zip lines.
Now we're talking.
So
So like
I do like this, and I feel like there are a lot of angles that we can come out of. Sorry, I cut you off. Go
no,
on.
you're good. So I know like one of the really bad ones is underneath is it Hudson Bay?
Mhm.
The island of New York, basically. Like
Sure.
the subway underneath there is really, really bad.
Mhm.
So and that would like isolate people, like when they shut that down and stuff like that. It wouldn't be a good one. But so like for that one specifically, if we're able to narrow it down to one specific area, having some sort of ferry, barge, whatever system,
Mhm.
and implement. I'm sure they have bridges and stuff like that, but implement some sort of ferry or barge system that you could shut that down for and be able to still keep up with the amount of people that are needing to travel within a certain amount of time, if that makes any sense.
I'm following. I'm just trying to imagine exactly how many ferries that would take, and I feel like the answer is a lot. But like,
That's
I'm
that's why I
following, and
said
I like your idea,
that's
because
why I
if
said
we
a
were to try
barge.
and repair this, we would need to have, yeah, oh yeah, exactly. You would need a barge or something like that, yeah, because it would be just an insane amount of
Yeah, I mean it's not
ships
an
that
easy
you would
fix.
need.
That's the reason why they have
Catapult.
fixed.
Constantly going, yeah, catapults, yeah, it's
Catapults.
a great way to go about it. Big
Jetpacks.
big trebuchets, giant targets. So looking at, I kind of like this subway angle that we're taking so far. So looking at that specifically, I see a couple of different solutions that I would pitch initially. One of them would be, or at least solutions in that, like, ways that things that we might be able to try and prototype. Something to make subway and transit repairs more efficient and able to be done at a potentially like smaller intervals and faster. Something that might be able to, like a smaller cart that might be able to move between larger, like actual subways, that might be able to get on the tracks, do some work,